call to my left.
Mike Warrington, City Council Member.
Dr. Joseph Ford, City Council Member.
Shelby Carcelari, City Council Member.
Ronnie Rice, Mayor.
Homer, City Council Member.
Tim Berry, City Council Member.
And tonight, Pastor John Langley from East Point Church will be doing the invocation for us.
Can you tell me the president's name again? You took his name off of the Troy. Okay. All right. We're going to be praying for Troy. He lost his mom here just recently, so we're going to include that. Let's pray. Father, there are so many things that need to be said tonight, and they're on the hearts of the citizens of this good town of Andover. They're expecting a good return for their speaking tonight, and we do ask you, Father, that the council will listen with open hearts and with the willingness to be a help. And Father, I hope that our citizens will have the same spirit. As it's written in Ephesians chapter 4, that Paul says to make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And so I'm asking you, Father, to bring peace to the meeting tonight, bring a heart of unity and a willingness to do what is good for our city rather than for any one individual. Will you bless, please, Father, the council as they think about and make decisions that will change our future. We do pray, Father, for their wisdom and their understandings. Please be with the Tabor family as they have lost one that they love so dearly. We ask you to help each of us to be a part of that family for now. And if we can reach out, Father, we pray that we will, either with a card, with a word, or with a simple handshake and a nod. Would you please help them manage this difficult time? And it's in the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this time I'll open up the floor for a public forum. State your name, your address, and keep it short.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Tom Taylor. I'm the Director of the Andover Public Library, and I'm pleased to introduce our newest board member, Denise Harrison. Denise, if you would stand, please, be recognized. Denise is a longtime resident of Andover, and she's employed at the Andover State Bank, so we're thrilled that she's joined our board, and I'm pleased to be able to introduce her to you at this moment.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, close the public forum and we'll move on to the acceptance of the agenda.
Are there any changes or anything, Jay? I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Proclamation of Public Works. I read this now correct. National Public Works Week Proclamation, May 16th through 2023. try this again. May 16th through the 23rd, 2021, Stronger Together. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Andover, Kansas. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public's interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Andover, Kansas to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works program in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now resolved, I, Ronnie Price, Mayor, do hereby designate the week of May 16th through 22, 2021 as the National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, and the government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the state to be affixed, done at the Andover, Kansas, this 11th day of 2021. All right.
Yes.
Man, I struggled with that, didn't I? All right. All right, and 881 Public Works Utility Department Service Awards, and Rick Landreth is going to speak with us on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So we have 2 awards to give out tonight. One is for Supervisor of the Year, and one is for Employee of the Year. I do want to start with saying I know that all supervisors always say they have the greatest employees, and I really, truly believe we have the greatest set of public works employees we've had since I've been involved with the Public Works Department over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know how it's evolved, but I'm not going to question anything. We just got a really good group right now. And so with that being said, I really do believe that. We did have to pick 2, 1 for each award, so that makes it a little bit harder. But this year, I'd like to ask Jacob Lopez to come up. He would be our Employee of the Year. While he's coming up, I will tell you a few things about Jacob. Jacob has received the most nominations for this award since its creation 4 years ago. He joined our team at the height of the pandemic, and this meant that he had extra sanitation efforts thrown into the normal everyday task. He not only managed to get those tasks completed, he also identified some extra deep cleaning that would be needed and took those tasks upon himself. Here are some of the words used to describe Jacob from the nominations we received: positive, detailed, hardworking, considerate. Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator, had this to say in her nomination of Jacob. Jacob takes this position seriously and is an overachiever in the area of custodial maintenance. Hiring somebody with a passion for cleaning and disinfection during the pandemic was serendipity. The regular cleaning tasks for all the city's facilities increased considerably in order to keep staff and public safe in our buildings. I truly appreciate his approach. With that, I would like to award Jacob Lopez our 2020 Public Works Employee of the Year.
I just want to say thank you, but this award couldn't be, I don't take this onto myself. I have one of the best supervisors, Derek and Daniel. They listen to your opinions. They take everything into consideration, and I just want to say thank you on that. So I appreciate that. So thank you, guys.
For the supervisor year, I'd like to invite Brian Walls to come up. Brian Walls has been Brian Walls will be celebrating his 24th year with the city on the 27th of this month. And our wastewater system, both collection and treatment, is better off because of the hard work and pride of he and his crew. He is instrumental in finishing the sledge press project, about $400K below the engineer's estimate. Immediately after, he was tasked with a lead role in writing the RFP for securing a consultant for a comprehensive wastewater system study. After a consultant was selected, he has been the lead point of contact for info requests, and there have been numerous requests. His experience, knowledge, and leadership is second to none. In the wastewater business, it's always best if no one knows, if no one is talking about you, because if they are, it's usually not because of something great you're doing. Well, I will tell you tonight, we are talking about the wastewater team, and it's because Brian has led his department to be one of, if not the best, wastewater systems in the state. As a supervisor, Brian demonstrates excellent critical thinking, communication, and leadership skills. As Brian's supervisor, I can count on him to tell me if one of my ideas is doomed for failure. His input is critical to the overall success of Andover's Public Works and Utilities.
All right. Thank you, Rick, and thank you for all the folks that work for the city. They do an amazing job, and it goes unnoticed more times than not, I'm afraid. But all of you from top to bottom are great. Many thanks. All right, consent agenda 9192.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the consent agenda items 9.1 through 9.2 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. City policy 10-1, Parks and Recreation Facilities Reservation, Katie Court.
Put this down here in case my phone rings. So before you tonight is a resolution that we put together, staff, Daniel and I put together about pretty much all the city's facilities. The new disc golf course opened, and of course we had tremendous amount of success with that. I guess it's been in use all the time. But as part of that, we needed to make up something for tournaments, or if they wanted to reserve it for any reason other than just coming out to play for the public. And so that's where this sort of came about. As we were putting that together, we realized, hey, most of our facility policies are kind of the same. And there's a lot of paperwork that goes into the facilities for the public, for the staff that does it all. And so we said this is a good opportunity for us to combine everything into one, get our fee structure a little simpler than it has been, and go from there. So you'll see in your packet, the resolution has the list of fees as, I think it's Exhibit A. But just to go over a few things real quick, and then if you guys have questions, Daniel or I could answer it. Basically, what we did with the fees is we reduced the number of categories from 3 to 2. So right now, what it is, it's category. Well, the 3 categories we have now are non-residents, and then we have a category for Andover residents and outside nonprofits. And then we also have another category for Andover nonprofits and city employees. And so we kind of just combined those two nonprofits and Andover residents into one. So we have one base rental fee, reservation fee, and then Andover residents, city employees, and nonprofits get a little bit of a discount. I think it's about 20% for that. And then the other big thing we did was we got rid of this half-day, full-day reservation thing. A lot of our residents come to us and say, well, can I come in an hour early? Like, can I come in at 7 instead of 8? Or can I go till 4 instead of 3? Or et cetera, et cetera. And so we realized the half days not that convenient for people, and a lot of them don't need it for the full 7 hours of that half-day reservation. And so we switched to an hourly rate instead for most facilities. That way, if they need it for 2 hours, they can pay for it for 2 hours, and then sort of like the way our shelters work. So we did that. There are a couple exceptions. The disc golf course, it's either all day or 5 hours, just the way disc golf works. Amphitheater, it's a whole day thing, because if you're renting the amphitheater, you're going to need it for the whole day. And then also the baseball fields, that's just a one-time fee for the day. It's not hourly, because we all know baseball games aren't, sometimes they go for longer than we think they're going to go for whatever reason. And then we did offer a slight discount if they're going to reserve it for the full, I think it's 16 hours, 17 hours that we have it open. And then the other big thing we did is we didn't change it based on the day of the week. Right now we have rates at the lodge and in Central Park for during the week and then on the weekend, just because of the demand. But we were like, that just adds to confusion. So you'll see, I think there's 20 rows in that fee schedule. There was almost 100 when we first put it together. So that's where this came from. But there's also some information in there about how much each facility gets used in general for you guys to see, as well as how much the reservations bring in. So do you guys have any questions?
So if I was a coach, or Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm a coach of a baseball team, can I just reserve, one of the ball diamonds for, it looks like I have to reserve it for the entire day, or do we just let the coaches reserve it and practice?
So if they're part of the league, we offer time slots for them as part of the league participation. Outside of that, they'd have to be following the new proposed schedule there.
Okay, but they get it for that entire day then? Okay.
Which I think is what they still do. Like on the form we have now, they don't tell us the times. So that hasn't really changed.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, do you guys like the new schedule? Are you both in agreement with it?
Oh, yes. Makes it much simpler. And I did also, if you guys want to see these, I put together some new forms that we would use to collect everybody's information for the reservations, and made them pretty much universal, just to make it a little bit easier. We are also hoping to put this online eventually, maybe end of the year for that, but just to make it a little easier. But yes, Daniel and I spent hours coming up with all of this, and we like it.
How many pages is the reservation now down to from?
I think, right, the resolution is, I think, a page now, 2 pages with that fee in it, or with that actual standard policy. And before, it was, the amphitheater one was like 15 pages long. So I think it's down to like 3.
Cool.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move repealing city policy 4-1, 4-2, and establishing fees, deposits, and procedures related to the use of the city's public park.
Motion?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right. 11-1 Developers Agreement, and Lance Onstadt will speak to us about that this evening.
Mr. Mayor, Council. The subject property that you see before you tonight, it was discovered during, so this is at the corner of Cloud Avenue and Andover Road. If you guys have been in that area, you'll probably notice that site is under construction. When that auto body shop first started going through the city processes, it required a special use permit and then obviously a site plan review application to be approved. It was discovered during that time that the lot that the owner was going to develop was not served by public sewer. So in response, a relatively small public sewer project is required. The owner, developer of that property, has elected to privately fund that public sewer as opposed to using the special assessment financing process. So the developers agreement before you tonight just sets forth that relationship between the city and the owners in order to meet the requirement that that site be served with a public sewer. I can answer any questions that you guys may have about that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the developers agreement with TLC Corner LLC related to the river at Andover Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Lance. I kind of drew a blank.
Number 12.
Cornerstone 11th edition, 12-1. Justin Constantino will speak about this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The subject property is located in North Andover, north of 21st Street and east of 159th Street near the Kansas Medical Center. The Cornerstone 11th edition final planned unit development plan is the final single-family residential phase of the Cornerstone edition preliminary PUD. The final PUD plan creates 40 individual lots on approximately 16.6 acres of property zoned R2. The subject property receives existing water and sewer service from the city of Andover. The Cornerstone addition receives access from North Andover Road, West 21st Street, and North 159th Street. The final PUD plan was reviewed and recommended for approval by the subdivision committee at their meeting on March 9th, 2021. The Planning Commission approved the final PUD at their meeting on March 16th, 2021, and staff requests that the City Council accept the public land dedications proposed on this PUD plan. I'm available for questions, as is the applicant.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just out of curiosity, do we know, I think I've asked this before, but do we know how many more additions there are going to be to?
This should be the final for Cornerstone. So this was been a long time coming. I think it's a little bittersweet too for Les not being here to present this evening, just because he's gone through so many of these. But this should be the final residential phase for Cornerstone.
Thanks, Justin.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the dedications on the Cornerstone 11th edition. Final planned unit development plan is approved by the Planning Commission.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
12-2 Petitions, Developer Agreement, and Resolution of Advisability, and Lance will speak to us on this.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the subdivision that Justin just presented to you, that you just accepted the dedications thereon, it is the responsibility of any subdivider or owner of property when they do legally subdivide a piece of property to ensure that each of those lots that they're creating be served with public infrastructure, streets, sewer, water, drainage improvements. In order to do that, typically, predominantly, even though we just did a developer installed improvement for the river at Second, generally a developer will use a special assessment financing to actually fund the improvements to serve those lots. So the owner developer has submitted petitions for paving improvements, sanitary sewer, water distribution, and drainage improvements to serve the Cornerstone 11th edition. Notably, those petitions, the paving, sanitary sewer, and water distribution petitions were drafted using that section of our special assessment financing policy that asks for the city council to consider participating in those costs up to 25%. You'll see in the staff memo that was prepared for you, we've made findings or written you a report based on those considerations that you had approved as part of that policy last year. So the paving, sanitary sewer, and water distribution petitions are presented to you as 75% responsibility of those costs is the benefit district, 25% is the city at large. The drainage petition is 100% benefit district. So in other words, the city will not be participating in the drainage petition as drafted. So I'll I know this is an item that has multiple kind of documents, so I'll kind of pause to make sure you guys don't have any questions about the petitions before we move on. So in addition to the petitions is the developer's agreement, again, always accompanying a subdivision like this. It just lays forward or sets the terms and conditions, the responsibilities of the city and the responsibility of the owner developer in a project that's utilizing special assessment financing. And then the resolution of advisability before a project can be completed using special assessment financing, the governing body has to find that those improvements are advisable.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the petitions for paving, sanitary sewer, water distribution system, and drainage, approve the developers agreement, and adopt a resolution of the advisability related to the Cornerstone 11th edition.
All in favor? Excuse me. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. 12-4, engineering, design and construction phase services agreement. And Lance will talk to us about this as well. Pardon me?
12-3 work ordinance.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, work ordinance, right?
Right. So now that the governing body has accepted those petitions for improvements and adopted the resolution of advisability, before these improvements can actually be constructed, the governing body must consider a work ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the construction of certain internal improvements related to the Cornerstone 11th edition.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Now, 12-4, engineering, design, construction phase services agreement.
As you guys know, the city of Andover, city staff does not design improvements. So these pavings, sanitary sewer, water distribution, and draining improvements to serve Cornerstone 11th. We don't design those, nor do we have staff that inspects those improvements as they're being constructed. It is a standard procedure for the city of Andover to retain the platting or the engineer that the owner retained to actually do the subdivision that you see on the screens in front of you. There's some efficiency gains there. So that's typically our standard procedure, is to retain the platting engineer firm to actually design the improvements and to inspect or observe those improvements as they're constructed. The petitions that you accepted, the amount of those petitions includes the funds to fund the design and inspection.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question about this.
Yes.
Lance, why do we not use our engineering firm that we partner out or?
Good question, Tim.
Yeah, no, that's a model that exists, is that you can retain a different entity to do your construction observation, then different as in they're not the ones who designed it. It's an option. There's some pros and cons to both scenarios. There are some cities in the metropolitan area that use a model similar to that. They have in-house inspection. They'll still always award that they don't do any in-house design, but they do some in-house inspection. So it is an option, one that we've never done at the city of Andover. And if it's something that you would like to explore a little further, what I would request is that we have time as staff to really delineate those pros and cons of each system and present that to you.
I
But-
just assumed, Lance, that we did this just because we didn't have a contract or a consultant that we've, used as an in-house engineer. So this is standard for what we normally do, even when we had a city engineer?
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, no, it's standard in that way, in that fashion. Now, I mean, it's the cost of these services, whether it's the design or the inspection, are paid for through the petitions or by the benefit district. So it's a you can expend those, or you can hire the plating engineer like what we typically do, or you can use the same funding source and hire an alternate or separate entity to inspect.
So I don't want Jason to take this wrong, but is this not like giving the keys to the prisoners? I mean, if something's messed up and they just keep, I mean, do we not have a third set of eyes to verify that it is correct, or?
Yeah, no, we do have city staff. We have our engineering technician who's also kind of oversees the project, not to the level of on-site observation that MKEC would provide us in this, but we do our own on-site inspections, whether that's your director of public works and utilities or the engineering technician that kind of oversees that. And then importantly, the contract, the agreement, the reason why it's before you for consideration tonight is that agreement is between the city and MKEC. It's not between the city and, in this instance, it's with MKEC and the developer.
Okay.
They work directly for us with a manager, a city staff project manager overseeing it.
Okay, thanks, Lance.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So I think Justin brought it up earlier as far as, this is one of the last additions, and I think Les has been on this, I guess, project, if you will, for, does 20 years sound about right?
2004 is when this project started.
Almost 20. Yeah.
So 17 years. Sorry, I was rounding up, Tim.
Almost 20, probably. By the time it's done.
Right. So has MKEC been on the project the whole time? I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a lot of forward thinking. I mean, if you think back 17 years, I mean, was Friends even over then? I mean, it just, a lot of stuff happens in 17 years. And I think it's pretty cool that, between the developer and everything, that it's gone on this long and still to what it is today. So I think that's pretty cool and it's still growing. So I don't know. That was my 2 cents. I don't know if that was a question. Thanks, Lance. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve an agreement with MKEC Engineering Incorporated, Wichita, Kansas, for the engineering, design, and construction phase services for the Cornerstone 11th edition to the not to exceed amount of $244,464.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. 13-1. I can't even say that word. Payment U.S. Master Service Agreement. Did I say that right?
Payment us.
Pardon me?
I think you guys were close. Paymentus.
All right.
So we've been saying it for what feels like 2 years now, but we've been working on this agreement for quite some time. But so we're happy to have it for you in a form that's acceptable for your consideration. So a little bit of background. Currently, as you guys all know, as paying utility customers with the city of Andover, you can make an online payment through official payments currently. They've been our vendor, if you will. We've had an agreement with them since I believe it's 2011 to handle all of our utility billing and other kind of online credit card processing or merchant services. So mid last year, we identified this as a service that we wanted to shop more or less. So we developed a request for proposals, brought that for you for your review. You authorized release to make sure that to see what was out there in terms of credit card or payment processing. A lot of things have changed in roughly 10 years. So you authorized the release of that request for proposals. I think it was, I need to switch was it 11 responses were received to provide these services to the city. So when you guys authorized that RFP to be released, you also approved a selection committee with a number of city staff that deal with this in different parts of throughout the city. So after review of the 11 proposals, 2 were identified as meeting the criteria we set forth in that request for proposals best. That committee of staff sat through demonstrations with both of those providers and ultimately selected Paymentus to begin negotiations with. There were a number of things that separated the Paymentus proposal from the others received. So before one of those, very importantly, were the fees that people pay when they process a payment with the city of Andover. So important, I'll kind of go through what you guys see in front of you, but I want to make sure I'm clear that the city of Andover, the organization doesn't pay Paymentus for any of these services. As somebody completes a payment, so they have a fee associated with that payment, and that's how Paymentus makes their money off of this relationship. So for us, we have a vested interest in the citizens and other people that are using or submitting payments to us to make sure that the fees that they're paying are as low as possible. So that is a very big part of evaluating all these different proposals, was what were the actual fees that people pay. So this is kind of a breakdown of the comparing ACI universal payments is what is official payments now. So that's our current provider. These are the fees that people currently pay when processing a payment. So utility billing, you'll see that when you submit a utility bill payment, whether it's using a debit or a credit card or an electronic check, your fee will be reduced. And that's obviously we have a lot of utility accounts. And then if you look on the Paymentus side, pretty much every other fee for a debit or credit card transaction is 2.95% of whatever the fee is that you're paying. If you look on the ACI universal payment side or official payments, you'll see that varies by every different fee that we collect, as much as $6.95 for all court fees, $3.95 for various sports registrations and building permits. It's a percentage. And then a big one at the bottom is this all others. I know we've looked at adding different fees to this official payments functionality over the years. And each time you do that, you have to submit data and they come up with a percentage or a dollar amount that makes sense for them. So it's a process to add new fees. And that's why you have to be determined. So with Paymentus, we have control over our agency dashboard. We can add fees as we want, and they're just all grouped at the $2 or 2.95%. So we have a lot of different fees, whether it's fingerprinting or dog licenses, or I think we counted, our previous intern cataloged them, and 200 or so fees that we can add to the system if we want to. So fees was a big part of that. And then you'll also see when you get into building permits, you might get a $15,000, $20,000 building permit. If you can write an electronic check for that for $1, that you're going to have quite a bit of savings from where you our current provider. So fees is a big part of that. In addition to the fees, we also looked at how this software or how this service integrates with some of our other software that we use. So your chief financial officer in the finance department uses Tyler Technologies for their just overall finance package for the city. This integrates seamlessly into that. Not all of those 11 did. And then your assistant director of community development is currently working to implement new planning and zoning and building permit software, Acela. This integrates seamlessly with Acela. This was one of 2 of the 11 proposals that did. So it will be able to just seamlessly be integrated into some of our other software, which is advantageous for city or for staff. Paymentus also offers this full service online bill payment. So now when you guys log in, if you make your payment online, you've got to know your account number and amount? Or is it just, so now you'll be able to register the account. So you can just sign in, register an account, your linked utility account will just pull up and it'll have the amount due. You can save payment methods, all of that. So it's more of your typical online customer interface to actually make your bill payments. So you can also set up auto pay and, pay by text and interactive emails we can send you. So it allows a little bit more functionality, not only for us as staff, but also from our users that are making payments. And then if you're so inclined, you can make a payment via PayPal, Venmo, Amazon Pay, Alexa, or the IVR, the phone, the interactive voice. R stands for something, but interactive voice. We can set up internally for staff. So if the police department wants to add all of their fees onto it, we can set them up with the right permissions to manage those. So if they adjust how much it costs for a record or whatever it is, they can actually make those adjustments and kind of supervise how those fees are received and run reports on them and just kind of have more control over what it is that they're actually doing from a payment processing perspective. Donna, the chief financial officer, can run a lot more reports and customized reports to really see. So when you guys ask how much are we collecting in rentals, we could run that really fast, really quickly. And then we'll also have in-person or point of sale. So employees up front will be able to process a credit card for a building permit or utility bill. So I will attempt to answer any questions. I will say that this agreement, again, we don't pay for this agreement, but it is for 5 years, an initial term of 5 years. And then after that initial term expires, then we can renew for 2-year periods. And I think that's all I have, unless you guys have questions.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Yes, sir.
Lance, why is using an electronic check the same as using a debit card for utility?
In terms of the cost?
Yeah.
So it has to do with scale. So they have all these agreements with Visa or MasterCard or all these different providers, right? So the way it was explained to me, and Donna might be able to explain it better, but I'll give it a shot, is that's where basically they make their money.
Because more people pay the utilities than they do register a sports team.
Right. So that's why it kind of offsets or normalizes the costs slightly.
How many people pay online now through the current system?
It'd be hard to estimate,
Okay.
maybe 500,
Out of
35, about 5,000 bills we send out, but it may
So-
be more than 500. I don't enter those myself.
Okay.
So I know there's a bunch. There's some every day that come through.
so for utility billing specifically?
Yeah, it's
So-
just, because Wichita, if you do City of Wichita for the water, they charge $1. You do Evergy, they charge nothing to use a check. Kansas Gas charges nothing to use a check.
Yeah.
Other services charge nothing to use an electronic check. So I guess that's.
I will speak up here. This was one of the first projects I worked on in 2011. So part of that is the philosophy of how do you want to cover that cost? Someone's paying it. Wichita has clearly done an analysis to say they'd rather pay that cost and ensure they get paid for the bill. When we looked at it in 2011, there was a feeling of we don't have a high delinquency rate. So we're giving you an option on how you make your payment, but we don't need to incentivize you to pay because we don't have the delinquency issue that maybe some organizations or cities experience. Certainly, if the governing body at some point wants to subsidize that by taking on the city making those payments, we can look at that. That was just not been something we've felt a need to have to do to encourage payment and timely payment.
I guess my question is, how much time does it take for us to open the check, to open the statement? You know, if we do incentivize somebody to do it online by only charging $1, are we saving payroll from having Dawn and her team?
We're
tear
saving
open-
some,
Yeah.
but that dollar also covers, and correct me if I'm wrong, the company also verifies the account number. They'd go through a verification process, and this covers their cost of that verification, where it's less likely we'll have a bounce check. We're less likely of that.
I guess I'm just saying, it's like, I personally would not pay $225 to do my electronic check over, you know, I'll just.
Oh,
I'd
you would
rather-
be amazed.
So I'm just a
Anytime.
tightwad, I guess, when it comes to online.
We have some customers that set up as an automatic payment every month through credit card instead of us pulling it out of their bank account. So-
And I will say, Tim, I'm one of those people. I use ACI every month, and it is incredibly inconvenient and it is not user friendly. And I use it every month because I do not want to walk down somewhere and write a check for it. So I will absolutely pay $225 for a better interface that's more user friendly. This is 100% worth it for me, and I bet you it is for everybody who pays monthly like I do.
But
Because
I've tried to
ACI
use the
ACI is
before.
it's I mean, frankly, awful.
It's a pain.
It's
We also have the option for those that don't want to have to pay the fees, free of charge. If they give us their account information, since it's a flat amount every month, we pull it out of their bank account every month on the 15th. That costs them nothing. So
yeah,
that's
so there's
also an
options. There's
Yes.
options.
And I know, like, if it is 10% of utility customers that are making payments online, like, I don't know. I've never really studied it from a market perspective, but that seems really low to me. I don't know how other cities perform in that, but I'm hopeful if we track that, maybe with some improvements, that we can increase that online payment choice. But we'll track that and see if that's the case.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Will this help out with the tickets and concerts or interfacing with those types of things at the Capitol Federal Amphitheater
So in that
located in Central Park?
Yeah, in that request for proposals that we sent, we want every proposal had to specifically address, do they integrate with these things? Acela for building permits, Tyler Technologies. And then also we were at the same time looking into the ticketing process for Capitol Federal Amphitheater. Not one of the proposals that we received integrated seamlessly into any of our ticket vendor provider packages. So unfortunately, we'll have a separate system for ticketing.
Thanks, Lance.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move we approve the master services agreement with Paymentus Corporation for electronic bill payment services.
Second.
Any further, excuse me, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Police Department purchase. Chief Keller will talk to us about this evening.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. If you recall, last year in our 2021 budget, we put in there to purchase 2 vehicles in 2021 at a tune of about $84,000. This year, after I sent out the request for bids on the vehicles, I did some calculations. I took all our vehicles, the condition of our vehicles. I pulled all the mileage and I looked at some projections for mileage next year, where we'll be. And I kind of determined that our fleet, Lieutenant Steve Harriman has done an outstanding job rotating our vehicles, keeping them in maintenance. The mileage is spread out among the vehicles. I made a determination that we only need to purchase 1 vehicle this year instead of 2, and we still should be in a very good position come next year. Typically, we buy 3 vehicles a year, but because of that, I'm only coming in here to recommend that we purchase 1 vehicle. So with the bids, we put the vehicles out for bids. I sent it out to 4 companies that we have received bids from in the past, and I only received 2 back from them. That being Shawnee Mission out of Kansas City and Rusty Eck Ford here in Wichita. The other two did not bid on the vehicles. But I did receive a third bid from a company because we posted it on the internet also. So this Watsonville Fleet Group bid our vehicle also. The lowest bid by $2 was from Shawnee Mission at $32,047. I'm sorry, from Rusty Eck. The $2 higher one was from Shawnee Mission. Those two dealerships have been back and forth the last number of years as far as the state contract. This year, I believe Shawnee Mission has the state contract, but the pricing they receive from Ford makes they're very difficult to compete with, those two. I believe last year, Rusty Eck was maybe $150 more, but it was more convenient for us and saved us money by buying here locally and not having to send officers to Kansas City to pick the vehicles up. So they go back and forth. This year, Rusty Eck was $2 under the other bid. The other bid from Watsonville was something like almost $5,000, $4,800 more. We also put the bids out, same way, put them out to for the upfitting of the vehicles. It's where we add all the lights and equipment to the vehicle, tear the equipment out of the old vehicle. We put that out for bids. I put it out to the 3 companies that I'm aware of locally that do this kind of work. And we also put it on the internet like the vehicles. We received 2 bids back, one from Serve, which is an Andover company just outside of Andover, and then KCOM, which is another company. KCOM was about, I have it here, about almost $4,000, $3,800 more than what Serve was here locally. So my recommendation is that we purchase one vehicle in 2021, one 2021 Ford SUV Interceptor at a cost of $32,047 from Rusty Eck, and then total upfitting charges for that vehicle not to exceed $42,457. And that falls well within our budget this year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
On the anticipated delivery, I see that it says 14 to 16 weeks. Is that after Serve upfits it?
Oh, that's from Rusty Eck. I will, upon your approval, we will place that order tomorrow morning. And it typically will be, I'm guessing, late August. And then depending on Serve's backup, or their how far back they are in vehicles, because they're getting a lot of business. It may be a couple weeks, but being an Andover company, they usually take care of us. It's usually a couple weeks.
Thanks, Chief.
And it possibly can be longer due to the microchip. They're missing microchips at all their stuff right now. So
I know that was a big Ford F-150 thing. I didn't know. Is that true with the Interceptor too?
yeah, it's true for basically all Fords right now. Chevy, Ford, they're all having the same deal.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the quote from Rusty Eck Ford for the purchase of the 2021 Ford SUV Police Interceptor at a total purchase price of $32,047 and approve the additional expenditures for associated equipment installation charges from miscellaneous providers for a total price to not exceed $42,457, which was budgeted in 2021. Sorry, I was just trying to check the math on that. So as long as the math is right.
There's another $500 in there. That's why you're probably hung up on that there, because we also have to buy the decals from a different company that go on the vehicles.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Chief. Mayoral appointments, 15-1, Library Board and Lance.
No, I think your library director, Tom Taylor's in attendance, so I'd invite him to have.
Thank you.
Hello again. We did have one opening still to fill on our library board, and we had an amazing group of applicants, which is, a good problem to have for most city boards. But we recommend that the library board and myself believe that Joyce Henry would be an excellent addition to the library board. Also, Ashley Angel's been our president. She is up for reappointment for a second 4-year term, and she's done a fantastic job on the board, especially her leadership in the last few years. As you know, the last year's been a little bit crazy, so it's been really helpful having a dedicated citizen of Andover being involved in our institution. So that's the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the mayoral appointment of Joyce Henry and the reappointment of Ashley Angel to the Andover Library Board for 4-year terms.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir. All right, on to member items. Wow. Very quiet. Nobody?
Well, I'll start, I guess. There's no seniors here in the audience, but if they're watching or whatnot, I want to say congratulations to all the seniors of Andover Central, Andover High, and even the E Academy. They graduate. It's hard to believe they graduate on the 23rd, I believe. I know several seniors, and they've worked their hearts out to get to where they're going. So I just want to wish all those guys good luck and a prosperous future.
How are they doing that this year? Different from last year?
It is in person at Jaguar Stadium.
Okay. Nice. Slowly but surely we get back to being us, huh?
I participated in the Andover Chamber of Commerce cornhole tournament this past Friday. It was actually pretty fun. So it was pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to more tournaments coming in town, if you will, whether it's baseball or disc golf, but things that are bringing folks to town. I think Smokey Joe's went really well as far as the Music Theater of Wichita goes. Driving by, the production seems amazing. I didn't get a chance to go to the show. And then this last weekend, is Katie gone? Was it Kelsey's dance studio that did it was packed. And people outside of this community that came to it said they really enjoyed the production piece as well as what the park has to offer and didn't know that it was here. So I think that's pretty cool. And thanks to Kelsey for coming out and using the amphitheater. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Anybody else?
If there aren't any more member items, I would like to say, in the vein of kind of returning things to normal, I shared with you an email I sent to staff. A lot of the staff has been vaccinated, and CDC is saying if you're in close proximity with vaccinated people, you can start to take these things off. So in that vein, I think we are probably at the point that we could return the governing body to the bench. I'm going to float that out there. And if anybody has concerns or good things to say about that idea, contact me before the next meeting. If I hear nothing or I hear, yes, please do that, then that's what we'll do at the next meeting.
We were actually talking about that tonight before Shelby and Dr. Ford.
We're on the same wavelength.
It was good. Yeah, we were all like, it'd be nice for us all to be on the same bench together again. So.
Yeah, I'll go on record saying, let's get back to normal.
Yeah, I'm down. Put me on record. I'm vaccinated.
I'm good.
Will our seating arrangement change or will I still get to sit next to Mike?
That's up to the mayor.
Oh,
I do not make that decision.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention, man.
Mayor's in charge of seating arrangement. Tim is out in the hall.
So, I would like to, thank my darling wife for putting up with me for 30 years and you all been doing it for a year. So you can imagine what that lady's had to endure over 30 years. So, man, I'm just a very fortunate man. So I just want to say thank you to Miss Price for putting up with me and my quirkiness and all my roller coaster ride attitudes and stuff. So I'm just really thankful to have the lady in my life. So
You've been married for 30 years.
yes, I have.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, we just talked earlier about 17 years. I can only imagine 30 years with you.
Yep. All my ideas and what have you. I appreciate her for, she deserves a Medal of Honor from somebody. I'll tell you that right now. So, all right. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adjourn.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Super.